Hi everyone, today we did get that continuation higher through the level. We assumed this was going to be just a pullback in time continuation here, and that is what we got. Rallied right to the level. 609.59 pushed through there, stayed bullish on the session. Obviously super overbought, tons of volume coming in, buying volume, and we are continuing to drift higher here in the after hours. So super bullish and continues to look bullish, but let's take a look at all of the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, you got Trump and the White House coming back out and saying that the July trade deadline is not a critical one. He threatened to impose 50% tariffs on the European Union and 2 days later decided to delay those to July 9th. Once again, reiterating the fact that these reciprocal tariffs are just a negotiating tool, really no real intent to put them on permanently besides that kind of 10% flat line. And I think it was a little bit higher flat line for China, but for everybody else, these are negotiating tools and he will continue to delay these indefinitely until deals are met. If they ever were to go through though, that would be terrible for markets, but for now it seems like these are just another negotiating tool and these deadlines continue to be kicked down the road as needed. Moving over to fear and greed. Fear and greed's at a 62, up from a 58 yesterday, and we finally got into neutral here on market momentum. Took forever. We're finally here. Strength still flat though, still in regular greed. Breadth still extreme greed, but still downtrending as markets go higher. Put call ratio cratering back into greed, very close to greed nearly on every metric. Volatility neutral. Safe haven demand back into greed, and then junk bonds still neutralized here at a 1.4. So almost every metric in greed, and obviously the overall metric in greed. Moving over to the economic calendar here, continuing jobless claims a little higher. Initial read from last month a little bit lower on the refined number. Core durable goods number is also better than expectations. Core PCE prices a little bit higher there. Durable goods orders way better than expectations. This might be a little bit of pull forward on the tariff potential, and then the previous number was revised down a little bit. GDP numbers for Q1 absolutely terrible at -0.5. Surprised to see markets really did not care about that at all. GDP price index also higher than expectations, didn't care about that either. Initial jobless claims better than expectation, continues to hold in there. 7-year note auction lower than expectations, and then Fed balance sheet selling off about 60 billion. Pretty good sell off for this week here, considering that they were flat to slightly up over the last few weeks. And then for tomorrow, we do have that core PCE and headline PCE data, the Fed's favorite inflation read, so we'll see how that comes in tomorrow. If that comes in a little bit low, maybe markets do accelerate here. The forecast as of right now is a little bit higher than the previous read, but if it comes in flat or slightly down, that should be good for markets. Moving over to the SPY charts here, you can see that gap and rally through the level, headed towards the trend line here. Your next target's going to be around that kind of 620, 622 area. Clean push through here on the hourly chart, straight up every single candle seemingly. Super overbought, but nobody cares. Momentum bullish. Everything looks strong. We're almost overbought once again on the daily chart. Maybe that presents a little bit of a problem for markets. Last time we got overbought conditions, we did kind of hesitate here for a few days before we did get a little bit of a continuation higher. But for now, everything looks bullish. At least one more day of bullish. You can see in the after hours already drifting higher. Everything looks really, really strong and clean breakout to new all-time highs. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we pushed through that upper ATR band, again continuing to stay extended here. You can see the volume really, you can see the spike at relative volume there at the end of the session continuing to drift higher as that volume came through. And then looking at the 4-hour chart, obviously still bullish conditions, didn't quite make it to that upper ATR band. That's going to be 614.09. I suspect we'll get there at least tomorrow. And then the rally should slow down a little bit once we hit those levels. A little bit more pullback in time, a little bit of pullback maybe in price down to 604.90 is your trailing stop right now, but either way, still very much bullish, but I would suspect this is going to slow down here at least a little bit in the near term. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same thesis, continues through more all-time highs, really powerful over the last 3 days. Momentum continues to swing to bullish. RSI getting into overbought conditions there. So again, not a super great time to be buying if you're trying to buy, but right now it is very strong. Continuing to push here, you can see just a hesitation there in the pre-market, couple of wicks down to the lows, and then immediately pushing back bullish all session. session, bullish after hours. So just a slight hesitation. Everything still looks very, very strong. And then again, volume at the end of the session on a bullish candle and a continuation higher after hours. And then moving over here to those Tasty charts, you can see we did push to that upper ATR band that was 546.26, and we are right there in the after hours 546.80 in that same zone here. And the current upper band is 547.23, so just a smidgen below it, but grinding along that upper ATR band, which was the price target for today, and that is where we ended up. And then looking at the hourly chart, just continuing to grind between that 8 EMA and that upper ATR band. 547.15 makes sense, continues to hold that 8 EMA on a bullish streak here. Your trailing stop 542.34. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, both of these had nice days here as well. The Russell was up 1.62%. The Dow was up as well, about 1%, pushing through that 432.78 level. That was the price target. We pushed through that here today. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Next level, 441.43 there for the Dow. The Russell is looking at that 200 SMA. We're drifting through there in the after hours. That was at 215.64, but you got to break out, close above the level there. That's the first close above that level in a while. We tested it back here on the 10th and 11th, couldn't hold above it, but now we did, and now we're looking for 218.13. Looks very, very nice. You do have some trend resistance in here around 216.65, but again, everything looks bullish, and these are no exception in my opinion. Moving over to the Mag 7. Mag 7 had a nice day, 1.28%, headed towards 330.67. Next level is all-time highs here, right in this kind of 338.60 area, 341 between there or so. But for now, 330.67 is the resistance. Do expect to get a test of that level tomorrow. And again, everything continues to look bullish. You had a long consolidation, grinding price action higher, but now we're above all of that. It does seem to be like we're headed towards that all-time high once again. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple continues to be absolutely dead money, down 0.25% in the same consolidation that we've been in since mid-April. Still here. Did look a little bit more bullish over the last couple days, but today just stuck in this range. Really cannot get higher than 207. And can't seem to get below 193. So trading range for Apple, absolutely dead money. And then you got Microsoft up another 1%. Headed towards that $500 mark. This is continuing to be all-time highs. Very, very, very strong. Seemingly every day since 22 April, we've gone straight up. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla did not move at all, really, down 0.5% right to the level. 324.47 was that level. Touched it and then bounced just a little. Hanging in there after hours. Momentum slightly bearish. RSI right at the SMA, but technically a little bit below it. And then NVIDIA went higher about 0.5% after the really strong day yesterday. Your new all-time high is 156.72, but this is price discovery, very, very strong above all of these previous levels back here from November and then here in January. Moving over to Amazon and Alphabet. Amazon was up about 2.4% right to this consolidation high. Seems like we're going to be able to get through there. And if we do, then you're looking for this kind of 230 area. And this is a pretty wide range. You can see a little bit of consolidation in here, kind of a bull flag setup continuation. Couldn't hold those gains and gave it all back here. But either way, I would expect it to be able to push back into this area around this 230 area. Think that's absolutely possible as long as we get above this consolidation here. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish there. And then looking at Alphabet, it's been in this channel for a long time, came back, tested this low here, 3 up days in a row, looking for this to get back to the upper end of that channel, which should be somewhere around this kind of 186 area. 185.22 is my level, so somewhere in here makes sense. Can it push through to 193? Certainly a possibility as well, but 185 I think is the conservative target. Moving over to Staples versus discretionary. Staples continued to sell here a little bit towards that 79.90 level. Didn't quite touch it. I still expect that we will touch it at some point. Discretionaries hung in there, still in the same range that we've been in. Couldn't get above 215.06 on a closing basis, but after hours we're drifting through there looking for that 219.18 area. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish. You can see it's been downtrending, but we held a slightly higher low here. Want to see this bounce if it's going to do it. And this looks a little bit more risk on here today than it did yesterday. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth. Here you can see momentum and RSI. Everything is still fully bullish here on 20-day. 50-day really still hesitating at this 60 level. Interesting to see this kind of chopping sideways. I was a little concerned about the close yesterday. RSI still bearish. Momentum kind of neutral here. Still stuck at this 68, 66 level. So consolidation range on this 20-day. Nice little swing here. Want to see this go back to that 86.53 area. If it does get there, that's probably the end of the rally. But for now, it does look look like there's a little bit more room to it to the upside. Moving over to the dollar here, the dollar did continue to go lower, did get a little bit of a bounce here at the end of the session. You can see a bit of a double bottom here on the hourly chart, push through the 21 EMA, but I wouldn't suspect that that's going to be a change in structure, probably just a short-term bottom. Didn't quite get to the level 96.85 is the level that we're looking for. It didn't quite get there, but we did get the breakdown that we expected. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, not quite oversold yet. Expecting one more continuation day there to the level, and then we'll see what happens after that. Moving over to bonds. Bonds continue to rip here, just continuing to go higher seemingly every day. We've been watching this J&K big move there to that 96.69 area is the next target. Right now we are at this kind of resistance area here, but I do suspect we'll at least hit 97.69 before we see any kind of pullbacks. Momentum bullish, RSI a little bit overbought already. And then you can see TLT also accelerating to the upside here, just continuing to go higher. Been saying buy it, buy it, buy it as fast as possible. And then you got a nice 0.5% up move continuation here. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, everything looks nice. Still expecting this to go short term to this kind of 89 area, 200 in there as well at 90.27, but ultimately expecting this to head back towards $100. Moving over to the VIX, you can see the VIX did end up going a little bit lower, didn't quite touch that trend line here, and then it finished almost unchanged on the session, down just 0.15, but did end up going a little bit lower. Momentum still a little bearish, RSI still a little bit bearish here, but is this a wick rejection from this kind of support area? Something to keep in mind. Maybe we consolidate here a little bit before seeing just a bit of a spike on the VIX, but for now we're at very, very low levels. Definitely some complacency in markets. You can see many times we found bounces in this area, but it can absolutely take a while before that happens. So just keep in mind we're at low levels, but it could take a while. Moving over to my accounts, did fine on the day, up a couple of $100 here, continuing to sell these IWM puts, rolled these out and up a little bit, and then sold one here for the Monday session at 214 for about $1 credit. All of that did well. You can see those profits came in from yesterday's session as well, so that was awesome. Like to see that, almost at $1,000 P&L on the year for that account, so continuing to do well there on the Russell. And then looking at the Qs, held these shares, nice profit there. Still have some profit to go on the calls, obviously. Max profit on this is going to be 550.32. And then looking at this Qs position, obviously tons of profit there on the shares. You love to see it. And then the calls, obviously in a bit of a loser as markets continue to go against them, but max profit on this position is going to be 550, so we're not even there yet, 546, and then tons of time here. Do we overthrow it and then come back down over the next couple weeks? I suspect that is likely. Again, we're starting to get close to some of those zones of resistance. Does that mean we're going to turn here soon? Not necessarily. I think we'll probably at least touch 550 before we see any major pullbacks. So right now, still bullish, still plenty of potential profit on this trade. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of Trump's comments on the tariffs. Are tariffs a thing anymore? Does anybody care about them? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.